We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Footballs. Peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this channel through a donation, hit the dollar sign, put a comment in, and we'll get to your super chat as quick as possible. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. With your phone calls, with your comments, I've got a story to tell you. Holy smokes. The cloak and dagger that went on today finally broken up by the announcement. Holy smokes. I do not have that primed up correctly. I do apologize. It doesn't matter. Let me put it up on the screen for you. PJ Fleck, honored to be the head coach, the head football coach in Minnesota, ready for an elite 2024 season. Now back to our wedding anniversary trip. And I have something to say about that. I am going to put you guys directly behind the curtain on this. Without burning sources, but I am going to tell you what we were up against today. I'm not happy with a lot of the reporting out there. And I'm going to get to that story. Not happy with how this proceeded. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's come on in. Don in Kansas, Patrick, the Baylor Bears, Minnesota Seminoles, Don, Ryan Brooks, Caleb Ramirez, Sheep in Wolf's Clothing, Chad Bracy, B, J. Perlmutter. Congrats, Greg. You can now breathe much easier. UCLA. Who are they going to get for the head coaching position? Who is next? Maybe Tony White. Tony White's got to be in there. That Brett Brennan made no sense at all. That is not happening. Tony White, maybe. We're gonna take you behind the curtain on what happened today. As much as I can. PJ would have wrecked the Calimony budget. Greg, you can breathe easier now. David Hopkins, thank you so very much. Jeff Olson, the evil badger. Jamie Thornton, possibly the blood pressure is back to normal. He was never going to Westwood. Couple of UCLA Homer podcasts, but it was much, no. I would have to disagree with you. There was strong interest, and and there has been for a couple of years, so we know there was interest back and forth. There was something that happened today that I'm not happy with. And we're going to get to it real quick here. Jason Candle, UCLA coach. David Shaw, he checks all the boxes. My UCLA wife is as happy UCLA is not getting PJ as you keeping him. Okay. Tony White brings the energy UCLA badly needs. Boosters will love him. All right. Here's the deal. In that tweet, PJ Fleck put out, again, honored to be the head football coach in Minnesota, ready for an elite 2024 season. Now back to our wedding anniversary trip. They know, he knew, they knew, his agent knew. The reports were accurate, true. There was interest. There was talks. Just like every coach who's been a candidate and for whatever reason is no longer a candidate, PJ Fleck put out this information. Now back to our wedding anniversary trip. Here is something that we can tell you all. PJ Fleck, and I'm going to say this in public because it was put out in public. It should not have been put out in public. It should have been kept. We knew that PJ Fleck was taking his trip to Mexico. No way was I going to put that out in public. The reason I'm putting out in public right now is because of a certain website put it out, and I'm going to talk about it. There are reasons why I hold things back. I can't put out every detail. It doesn't work for the sources. It doesn't work for us trying to advance the story. It doesn't work for us when it comes to being able to sift through information that we get later. If we hold some technical detail back, and then if that information collaborates with something that we know that we held back, then we know to take that information seriously. There are reasons why you hold back certain very important details. You can still tell the story that possibly this weekend, Fleck and Martin Jaman are going to be possibly meeting. That is still serious, which it all was. You can tell the story without saying Mexico. There are people who had this information. People who had this information in an attempt to get more information. A certain website for UCLA working with a certain site from Minnesota. UCLA put out that information out in public that Jaman and PJ Fleck were going to meet in Mexico today. And I am incredibly disappointed in UCLA 247. You made it so you could not advance the story. Anyways, that got out in public. And you know, there was always a question whether UCLA was going to have enough money here in the short term. You know, PJ Fleck has been interested, but you know, UCLA was going to have to be able to have enough money for staff and everything, and there was always a question of how high level can UCLA go to in the first 3-4 years of being in the Big Ten. They sort of are like the Rutgers. When Rutgers came in to the Big Ten financially, UCLA has a great brand, a great recruiting ground. Their NIL is going to blow by schools like Illinois, Minnesota, Purdue. In time, UCLA is going to have their NIL percolating if they get the right head coach. Now, when it comes to facilities and paying the staff, they're going to be behind. Because they've been running deficits, it's going to take a while. That was a big question mark. But whatever. Look, PJ Fleck was a candidate, a serious candidate. But it's very difficult. February 10th, it would have been very difficult for Fleck. Anybody else right now? Somebody's going to take the job, obviously. And it could be a great job 2, 3, 4 years from now. But that whole putting that out in public, that hurt the ability for us to do more. It hurt PJ Fleck. I'm sure they saw, of course they saw all this in public. And he came out today on his Twitter tonight that they're going to continue their anniversary trip. And Martin Jaman did not get on that airplane and to go to, and all is, so there it is. PJ Fleck is the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers going into next year. And who's going to be the UCLA Bruins head coach? Tony White, baby. I think Tony White would be the perfect candidate for the UCLA Bruins. But I was not happy. That's why earlier today, this was my... if you check the time on that... 4:15 p.m. That was when I saw that in public, put out by UCLA 247. I really can't get any more into that, but it's just a lesson learned for everybody. You sometimes you got to hold. It's not about breaking the story in midstream. It's about grabbing information, following it, giving your the people that are watching you or reading your stuff, give them more of the story, but you do not want to destroy the story. I don't know. Would Jason Candle be willing to go west? What is so difficult is the calendar. February 10th. Again, no fault of UCLA. It's just a late calendar. It's going to be, Tony White. He played for UCLA Bruins. The first game that Minnesota played against Nebraska this year. Now, Minnesota did not have a good offense, especially without Darius Taylor, the great running back. He didn't play in the first game. Nebraska totally shut us down. You could see that Nebraska's defense completely changed. Tony White is the real deal Holyfield. An ex-Bruin. If he's got any interest, UCLA's got to strike. Tony White. It's got to be the guy. No, they really didn't want him. Maybe UCLA 247. No, if you read, no, they didn't want him. I don't know. I wasn't. They were. I got to be careful. They were given information because the story was we were trying to find more information from the UCLA side, and how do you say it? They bleeped the bed and not happy about it. Not happy about it. Good day to be a Gold Gopher. In my opinion, yes. Now this could be right. That could be right, JP. That makes more logical sense. Jeez. I don't know. I was fit to be tied. I was not happy. First they put Brett Brennan out there. That wasn't happening. I don't know. Again, I'll just leave it alone at this point. I don't want to be mean, whatever, but John Teal, thank you for your super chat. I love David Shaw, but if they want youth, Kellen Moore. I know you love David Shaw, John Teal. Maybe he's the guy. Maybe he is the guy. I do not know. I don't think PJ got a raise. Maybe. We'll find out, but maybe that's why he did it. None of this was supposed to be known. I mean, this was not how it was planned to go for PJ Fleck and his agent. I mean, we put information out there January 31st. Then the day that Chip Kelly, yesterday, it seems like 5 days ago, Chip Kelly left. Brett McMurphy puts out PJ Fleck. Bruce Feldman put out PJ Fleck. Some podcasters, and all that was true. And of course, we had the information here at Peek Around the Corner, but I don't think they anticipated. I think they were going to try to do this in silence, which is fine. But it's my job to unveil the cloak and tell you about when the dagger's going to happen. That's my job. I don't work. I'm not. Look, I'm a Golden Gopher, but you know how we do it here. I don't. If it's the Big Ten, Golden Gophers, I give you guys the Peek Around the Corner. So I'm happy PJ's staying, but I wasn't gonna change our reporting. We were gonna give you what we knew, and we did it. And then all this stuff came out in public about where they were, and where Martin Jaman was going to meet them, and that did not need to happen. So So knowing all that, it was like PJ Fleck putting it out in public saying, nah, they couldn't get it done in private, but for everybody to know where they were and everything out in public, that did not need to happen. I'm not too happy about that. So did PJ get a raise? I really don't think so. I really don't think so. No, that would be that's not Taytown Hawk, Mall of America over Rodeo Drive. Not necessarily. I think they have, from what we know, they have shown interest. They obviously there might be some family. Yeah, they have children. Sure. I think what it came down to is money. Now, Minnesota is in the bottom 1/3 of the Big Ten for resources, especially in football. PJ Fleck's salary is in the middle of the Big Ten, but his staff is at the bottom of the Big Ten, and he's always trying to get increases for his staff. Big Ten pays a lot of money. And Minnesota, being in the bottom 1/3 of resources, Minnesota spends a lot of money on their non-revenue sports because Minnesota excels in those non-revenue sports. They put a lot of money into it. But there still is a big difference between Minnesota finances and UCLA. Now, that's going to change. 10 years from now, UCLA should be in a lot better position. But UCLA, if you read the reporting, they were going to have a hard time paying off the $5 million buyout. $5 million buyout of PJ Fleck, that's a low number. When it comes to Big Ten and SEC coaches, that's a low number. But UCLA was going to have a hard time even with that buyout. So $5 million buyout. They're going to have to pay PJ Fleck $8, $9 million, $7 million. Maybe 7, but cost of living in LA versus Minneapolis. And then the coaching staff, and then all the money. As we know, UCLA has an athletic department revenue of about 102, 104 million. Minnesota has 148 million. And they're not running yearly deficits. And it's just... It was the money, I think. And that was always the big hurdle for UCLA. Was UCLA interested? Yes. Was PJ Fleck interested? Most definitely. But PJ Fleck announced on his Twitter that he is staying. That he's absolutely staying at Minnesota. And he says back, show you what he said once again here, because it's important. You can see how he phrased it. Right? You can see how he phrased it. Honored to be the head football coach of Minnesota, ready for an elite 2024 season. Now back to our wedding anniversary trip. This is something they had to handle. Yes or no, foot to the gas pedal, or let's just stop it now. And they decided to stop it. And I'm happy. There's some Gopher fans, of course, who wanted a different coach. But I'm 55 years old, and PJ Fleck is the most successful head coach at Minnesota in my lifetime, and it's not even close. John Till, I know a guy that has 3 conference championships, recruited 3 Heisman Trophy finalists in the P5 with no budget and high academic. Just saying. Thank you, John Till, for your super chat. Appreciate it. You must be talking about David Shaw once again. Appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much. Well, PJ wasn't going to get more money from UCLA. You know how much it costs to live in LA. The coaches have lived in Simi Valley, Santa Clarita, flight traffic to get to UCLA. I know that PJ Fleck has a big old house in the North Metro, nice area, North Metro, Minneapolis. And he's building a bigger house right next to the house that he has. So, PJ was interested. He was interested. But he decided to end it tonight. Hey, Greg, will you go over the 2 articles I sent you? No, don't have time, Justin. Maybe early next week. Just don't have time. I wasn't going to do a live show tonight, but I just wanted for historical purposes. I wanted, let's talk about who UCLA is going to get next. Plus, I do want to go over, the problem is I did not prepare this. I'm wondering if this will work. Yeah, I think this will work. Let's talk about, well, this will kind of work. The mailbag, John Wilner. Got some interesting questions. I don't go through the whole thing. ACC Big 12 merger, conference playoff matters, Fox and Northwest schools, Pac-12 blame game, Dartmouth case, Apple deal, and more. A merger of the conferences sounds smart, but there are massive practical impediments. Basically, I don't really have it set up. Basically, what John Wilner says is, you know what? Let me see if I can. A question, I'm going to try this. To try and play defense with some offense in light of the Big Ten, SEC partnering up, should the ACC and the Big 12 merge? In theory, the conferences should explore all available routes to counteract the Big Ten and the SEC. The hotline felt the way about the Pac-12 and the Big 12, Pac-12 and Big 12 years ago, and suggested a scheduling alliance that would have provided strength in numbers. We won't be surprised to hear the ACC and the Big 12 have held informal discussions about the ways they can work together and use scale to unlock value in non-conference matchups. But an outright merger, in our view, it's impractical. Impractical for a variety of reasons. Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina are loath to be locked into any agreements unless those deals are with the Big Ten or the SEC. An outright merger would assuredly require the ACC to rip up the grant of rights agreement that binds the schools together, thus creating an escape path for the Seminoles and others. How would it benefit Fox and ESPN? True, the networks have been working together recently. The announcement of a joint streaming platform, and I agree with this. The merger, obviously, between the ACC and the Big 12 doesn't make any sense at this time. It doesn't benefit the Big 12 at all. So I'm not buying it. Let me get to the next question here. There was a question, John Wilner, again, Mercury News. Fans of the Pac-12's departing schools, or the Traitors 10, claim there was no linear TV element in the Apple deal presented just before the implosion. Has this been confirmed, or is it just face saving? They are correct. The final offer from Apple was an all-streaming deal for $25 million guaranteed per school. Peek Around the Corner was told at the time, we reported it in real time, that it was $23 million. But anyways, Apple was an all-streaming deal for $25 million guaranteed per school, and revenue escalated starting in year 3 that would have been well within reach. So, no, there was, John Wilner is correct. There was no linear in that deal. So it was really, really difficult. It was really difficult. Impossible for some of the Pac-12 athletic directors and presidents to agree with that deal. Now, this is the question. The last one we're going to go through in the John Wilner Mercury News mailbag, and I disagree with John Wilner completely on this one. Put down your comments in the chat room or give me a phone call later on. But this is the one. What will be the outcome of Washington State's President Kirk Schultz playing hardball with the College Football Playoff Board of Managers? Will it possibly strain? I'm sorry, I don't have this up here. My apologies. What will be the outcome of Washington State's President Kirk Schultz playing hardball with College Football Playoff Board of Managers? Will it possibly strain relationships that may hurt the Pac-2 beyond 2026? What's going to be the outcome? Kirk Schultz playing hardball. John Mercury answers, here's our view in a nutshell. The Pac-2 schools should hold out for anything they can get. Make the process as difficult as possible for everyone else. Essentially, because in the end, Washington State and Oregon State are going to get the shortest straw available. Holy smokes. John Wilner in the Mercury News goes on to answer the question. The future of the college football playoffs, as defined by format and revenue distribution, will be all about the SEC and the Big Ten, with the ACC and the Big 12 in secondary positions, and the Pac-2 in the group of 5 a distant third. Remember, John Wilner, Mercury News, remember, there is no playoff for 2026 and beyond. As we've talked about here, Peek Around the Corner, for 17 months. The expansion format announced in September is for 2024 and 25 seasons. The final 2 subject to the CFP's original contract with ESPN. For all we know, the SEC and the Big Ten would dictate terms for the next edition. And if they don't get exactly what they want, they will create their own event. So John Wilner says, so Schultz is smart to play hardball. There's no upside to acquiescing. There's no upside to acquiescing. There might be a big downside to not acquiescing, right? Am I in the minority in this? I mean, for all we know, the SEC and the Big Ten will dictate terms for the next edition. They will. For most of it or all of it, And if they don't exactly get what they want, they'll create their own event. So Schultz is smart to play hardball. There's no upside to acquiescing. There might be a huge crater created at Pullman, Washington, if you don't acquiesce. Holy smokes. Let me get your comments on that. Again, my jaw has hit, my big fat jaw has hit the floor twice today. On that answer to that question, and when I saw UCLA 247 spill the beans on the Jarman and Fleck meeting in Mexico. I mean, so I've had quite the day. It's been, on the outside, on the surface, it might have been just, you guys reading Twitter, whatever. But internally, holy smokes, what a roller coaster. I don't know. I try to get a compromise, try to get a little bit more revenue than the G5 schools, try to get a little bit more voting rights than the G5 schools. But other than that, Schultz doesn't have any cards to play with. Doesn't have any cards to play with, in my opinion. Jamie Thornton can't win. Snakey is guaranteed to be a snake regardless. Steven Vitt agrees with John Wilden. I'm no fan of Schultz, but he's being smart here, to be honest. Ryan Brooks, when is Wilner ever right? He's been right. Could UCLA go with an offensive coordinator out there and pay very little? I don't know. I think Tony White's got to be. We'll find out. If you see something, say something. Keep your head on a swivel. If there's breaking news about UCLA, you know how this works. People who were in talks on the target list, candidate list, they start falling off for whatever reason. They got their raise, or it just didn't work out, or maybe they get rejected. They said, no, we're going. They start making comments on Twitter. We saw it with PJ Fleck tonight. So that means that maybe we're going to see another comment from somebody else, and then boom, we get news of who UCLA's head coach, the first year for the Bruins in the Big Ten. Who's going to be their head coach? Hey, look, for the Bruins fans, it's exciting times. It's nervous times. They're nervous, but Chip Kelly wasn't totally 100% committed. Coaching ball he is, but not when it comes to the recruiting and the relationships that you have to build with the boosters. Chip Kelly was not all in. UCLA is going to get somebody who's all in. I don't know who that's going to be. I do not know who that's going to be. Steven, it's like I said earlier about the G5. You can be nice in negotiations about 5+7 or 6+6 format, but guess what? The Big Ten and the SEC will do whatever they want and force them out. That could be, Steven. That could be. But if part of the negotiations are the G5 says we'll acquiesce and go from 6+6 to 5+7 for 24 and 25, will you guarantee us access for 2026 to 2032? That has to be part of the talks. So the G5 can use that leverage. Now, is it enough? Is that what's happening? Because all the G5 conferences, including the MAC, where the Ohio Bobcats are in, they've said they're on board to changing it. By the way, Stephen, I do have a family member who's part of the coaching staff at Ohio Bobcats. My cousin's son, Jake Roney, is on the coaching staff. So Jake Roney, go Ohio Bobcats. Just to, unfortunately for Ohio Bobcats, they have the least amount of returning production from the 2023 team into the 2024 team. Of all 134 FBS schools, the Ohio Bobcats have the least amount of returning production. So it's going to be an interesting season for the Bobcats for next season. Jim Choi says they've got no choice. It's going to be David Shaw. He's the only one who would take it. It's an upgrade from him in admissions, for transfers, recruiting at UCLA and Stanford. We've had quite a few people in the PATC community who've been saying David Shaw, David Shaw, David Shaw. Yep, go check it out. I think he's, I don't know. He's an analyst. I want to say he's an offensive analyst because he played center in college. Really smart kid. His father, Don Roney, used to be the head coach of the St. Thomas Tommies. My cousin, Don Roney, who St. Thomas is now part of FCS. They've been dominating. They have not been able to get into the FCS playoffs their first 2 years because they're not eligible. I think you got to go 3 years. They came from Division III. They dominated Division III football. They went to FCS. So Don Roney used to be the head coach. He's retired. His son is on the Bobcat staff. Tony White, man. I'm a big Tony White guy. I saw what Nebraska's defense did last year versus what they did the year before. Tony White, man, what he did at Syracuse, what he did at Nebraska. He's a former Bruin. I don't know. If I was a Bruin, I'd be all cranked up, ready for Tony White. Antoine Coles, UCLA should hire Tony White. They'll probably hire somebody with the name. Tony White has a name. Well, maybe he doesn't. Antoine, you're probably right. In the Big Ten, we all saw how great Tony White was. So I guess he's not a national name. But Greg reposted quite, why is 7-8 wins good enough for the Gophers? But people do question they take. How do I answer this? How do I answer this? Let me answer it this way. PJ Fleck is the best coach that Minnesota's had in 6 decades. So first of all, take that. Second of all, if you put a 300-mile radius around Minneapolis, it's probably the worst football recruiting ground in all of Power 5. So put that in the shelf. Asking Minnesota to compete in football is like asking at the highest level, is like asking Alabama Huntsville to come up to Minnesota and compete in hockey. Minnesota is Minnesota. It's a hockey state. It's a wrestling state. It's a baseball state. It has a lot of basketball players that go elsewhere. Yes, 7 and 8 wins is good enough. And yes, Minnesota does take it seriously. Both are true. But you're asking, some of these football programs, I'm going to be honest with you, they were born on third base. Minnesota's never on third base. They're in the batter's box. They're barely able to get up to the plate. The number of 5-star players in Minnesota, there is none. The number of 4-star players in Minnesota, maybe 1 or 2 a year. Maybe. Minnesota is a pro sports town. Minnesota they have a beautiful stadium. The fan base is smaller than Iowa's and Wisconsin, but the fans are very committed to the program. They have a big hockey following, of course. So why 7 and 8 wins good enough? Because it has to be. And I would say this. There is only a handful of coaches in this whole country that could have won 11 games, 9 games, and 9 games 3 consecutive years at Minnesota. One of them being PJ Fleck. That's the truth. So yes, my answer to that is 7 and 8 wins has to be good enough, because the ceiling ain't as high as pretty much everywhere else. But I'm still a Golden Gopher fan. It's in my blood. That's just the way it is. I get it. A lot of people are not from Minnesota, but we are a very odd state. I'm going to tell you, you guys, go YouTube. If you put YouTube Minnesota high school football playoffs, there's not people in the stands. If you go to high school hockey playoff, put that in your YouTube. It's just that's the way this state is. This state is about as Canadian as you can get in the United States. In fact, some of the lake of the Lake of the Woods, the chimney. If you go to your map, you see that chimney. That's the highest peak there. That's all that was supposed to be Canada. But they did, the people who drew the map and everything, they made a big mistake. It's a long story, but that became part of Minnesota. And there's lakes everywhere. So everyone's playing hockey. And they're all Scandinavian. And they all talk weird like me. This is not football. You only can do so much. And PJ Fleck has hit the ceiling a few times. And of course, fans get frustrated. I get it. I have as well. But I have seen comments about PJ Fleck. Oh, he's all hype. He's not that good. Come on. I would just disagree. Disagree. By the way, I'm going to try this as well. Okay. So, I did do a song I put on Twitter during the day. If PJ Fleck would have left Minnesota, I did a song, a breakup song with the images. And I'm going to play it. I'm going to try to play it. Now, of course, I did not publicly release it because it didn't happen, but I had it all ready to go. So do you guys want to hear the rendition, PATC rendition of Yesterday by the Beatles? Do you guys give me a yes or give me a no? Don't be shy to say N. Don't be shy to say N, because you're gonna be, it's not gonna be very good. It's gonna be a lot of pain. So put Y or N. We'll go by the vote, and I hope I can figure out how to post this, because I don't know. Buckshot Kid, no. Joe Z, yes, please. Poor Buckshot Kid. It looks like he's being outvoted. Okay, let me see if I can figure this out here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, man. Let me see if I can... Okay, I think this might work. I haven't really done it like this before. Now again, Fleck is not gone, but I had this all queued up. I hope you can hear it, or hope you can't hear it, because it's that bad. But this is Fleck is Gone, PATC rendition, the Beatles, Yesterday. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why PJ had to go, I don't know. He wouldn't say. Did we say something wrong? Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday. Love was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Why PJ had to go, I don't know. He wouldn't say. Did we say something wrong? Now I long for yesterday. Okay, I think hopefully that worked. Did that work at all? Could you guys hear that? Maybe not. Maybe this whole thing collapsed. I don't know. Did it work? Woo. Oh, okay. I got a few things. First of all, that was terrible. I do admit that was terrible. But I'm going to blame it on the fact that I was sleep deprived, in a rush, I was depressed, all that stuff. Okay, that's my excuse. First of all, Rock and Rant, two things on that. Rock and Rant, Greg. Tracy Pearson, Bruins Online, says Tommy Reese is moving up with a bullet from what he is hearing. Couple things. If you caught my start of the show, I'm trying to be kind here, but the UCLA 247's Bruins Online site, I don't care what they say about me or what. They were not professional today. They put out information they were not supposed to put out. So they're reporting on this. I'm going to take it with, and I'll just leave it at that. Tommy Reese, if UCLA hires Tommy Reese, you know, I love UCLA Bruins, Jay Perlmutter, love them. But, you know, I'm going to call it like I see it. Tommy Reese would be, in my estimation, a horrific hire on a grand scale. Tony White would be an incredible hire on a grand scale. So that's my opinion. That's the difference I have between Tommy Reese and a Tony White. One is a grand slam. The other one is a bunt where you fouled out on a bunt attempt. So I hope that's not accurate for UCLA. That's my opinion. But you all know that I am not a Tommy Reese guy. Kyle Visser. Yeah, thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it. Hell's Angels. You guys are crapping me up. 247 Sports, Anthony Carlson. Now, as you know, 247 Sports is like, they have their national writers, they have their national recruiting guys, who are, Steve Wiltfong is incredible. And then they have individuals who own sites, right? It's like McDonald's franchises, where they all own a McDonald's, but they all run them differently, right? Owners of these franchises. That's how 247 is. The great Ryan Burns of Minnesota 247, and I'm not just saying this because I've had the honor of working with him on stories and stuff. He is unbelievably great. There are other people out there. Chris Nee, Florida State 247. There's a whole bunch of them. And then there's some of them are, and the one, and today was not a good day for one of the sites, and that's UCLA 247. They put out information. Not a good day. Not a good. I should get a karaoke. Nobody wants to hear me sing, but if I'm gonna sing, which I'm going to once in a while, when the story is right and we get the right song for it, I should have a karaoke machine, right, to play the music. So not every one of my songs is a cappella. That's the problem. It's not my voice. It's a cappella every time. If I could play some music and sing it over the music, then my performance will go up a little bit. So I do have to buy a karaoke machine. That's my excuse. We've got another excuse. I'm full of them tonight. I've done that song, Rocky Mountain High. Oh, that's right. It was a YouTube violation. That's right. That's right, Patrick. God. Man, you guys have got good memories, very smart, unlike. I think that was a joke. I think that was a joke that Jason Shear put out there. Uh, Told you PJ was staying. Yeah, we're coming on Gold Blue Dude's anniversary of his passing. I'm not sure what quite that was in the spring. I think in April, late March, early April, and that's going to be a tough day. That is going to be a tough day. Yeah, yeah, yep. If they hire Reese, it's on the cheap, probably upper 2 million and 3 million, and Tommy Reese maybe can be the offensive coordinator as well, right? He head coach, offensive coordinator, have a offensive have a co offensive coordinator, a person that you can develop, somebody who can call the plays just in case something happens. But they could get Tommy Reese in as a discount in the head coaching slot and fill up the offensive coordinator. So I'm just not a believer in him. I don't. He's one of these guys who sounds really smart, and everybody says he's smart. Probably is smart, but the results, I don't see it. Notre Dame Fighting Irish offense was clunky. Alabama's offense last year, I'm not completely blaming Tommy Reese. They did not have the wide receivers. They didn't have the juice. Jalen Milroe was what he is. The running game wasn't very good for Bama last year. Nothing really ever works. I'm not saying he may end up being a great offensive coordinator, but the results on the field don't match the hype. Everybody talks about PJ Fleck being the hype guy, no substance. Jeez. He won 13 games at Western Michigan, 11 at Minnesota, 9, then 9 again. He's 5-0 in bowl games. PJ Fleck's beat Nebraska 5 years in a row. There's something there. Tommy Reese is, to me, he's the hype man. Now, if he becomes the head coach of UCLA, and then Minnesota plays UCLA October 12th, and then, we'll see what happens. But I don't get it. I get Tony White. That I get. Jim Choi, I'm not a Reese guy neither, but UCLA did hire Carl Dorrell. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Not just Jason Shear. Somebody send me a DM on that. Because I think Jason Shear was just joking when he put that out there. MH5, do we know the amount of calamoni? No, we don't. Great question. Between 2 to 10 million a year. Look, we didn't. Fleck was going to cost UCLA a lot of money up front. And maybe UCLA's just, they're not in that, maybe 4 years from now. 3 years from now, maybe. And I'm not saying PJ Fleck's very expensive, but he's going to come in with expectations, and UCLA is probably going to go on the cheap. It's going to be interesting. Let me check. Let me open up the phone lines here. If anybody wants to call in, anything on college football, phone lines are now open. 763 260 1333 763 260 1333. I do not have a Clemson update. But we are working on it. I don't have an update. That doesn't mean we haven't learned other stuff, but we're working on the story.
Call from
Jay Perlmutter, go Bruins.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Mr. Bruin is on the line. Jay Perlmutter. Holy smokes. Thanks for calling, good sir. The floor is yours. What do you think?
Hey, Greg. It's great to be on finally after being a listener and a chatter forever.
Yes. I love that you're on. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Well, number one, my dog is going to contribute to the karaoke machine fund for you.
Beautiful.
And anyway.
So he wants that. He needs that extra music playing in the background.
That's right. Hey, I can't say enough about you saying that Tony White should be number one, because it makes so much sense. He has got a lot of background that would just lend itself really well. He's got a lot of energy, high energy that I think could impress the donors, the fans. I think that he could do well with raising nil. He's just, and of course, obviously being an alum, and, he was playing with Cade McNown back in the day, quite a long time ago. I just think that it just makes a lot of sense. I really hope it is him. I mean, there's a few other guys on the list that I would also be very happy to see, like Matt Campbell, Brian Hartline, Tom Herman. They're all kind of guys that I think also could do it. I just think that Tony White just makes the most sense. And there's other names that get thrown out all the time that I can't imagine, Tony Shaw, Wilcox, Tommy Reese. I also agree. I don't see that as being a very good fit, except for obviously maybe he can be at a cheap price. Even Pete Carroll has been mentioned. I don't know why that would, make any sense. He's kind of old, and in this day and age, I think you really need someone young who's hungry, who can really, really fire up the fan base and kind of get people excited again.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, Barry Odom's name hasn't been brought up. You would think he'd be UNLV's head coach.
Yeah. I've seen his name bounded about. I am a member of Bruin Report Online, but I'll apologize for our entire site. I saw that this morning. It was not good.
Well, I can't get into it, but they were given that information, okay? And you can see how they wrote it. They said sources said, right?
Yep.
Well, can you imagine who their sources were? I mean, their sources were from who? From the Minnesota side, right?
Yeah.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. They were not supposed to put that detail on there. I don't know. I'm not going to go any further with it, but I'm sure they're great guys and everything, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's exciting to be a Bruin fan now because, I mean, let's face it, the chip experiment was horrible and probably one of the worst hires they ever had. Yeah. He didn't do any recruiting whatsoever. He was not at all engaged in nil when it became important to do that. He didn't get along with the donors at all. He was very arrogant and just insular. He never wore any UCLA gear when he was obviously given all the gear he wants. He never wore anything. you could just, there was so many different facets for him that didn't play with, hey, I'm all here, I'm with you guys. He didn't show leadership at what you would expect a coach at a big university to show.
Yeah, he wasn't, he never seemed to be 100% committed. And that's a problem. In college football now, that's a huge problem. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I'm excited for hopefully new blood, someone young, someone hungry.
Whoever it turns out to be, right? Everyone's going to be eventually uplifted. There's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be guys like me who's going to rip on Tommy Rees. But after a week or so, it's going to be like, okay, fresh blood. He's a smart guy. Whoever it becomes, it's going to rejuvenate Westwood, right? So.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
All righty, man. I appreciate it, Jay. Call again. I need your Bruin perspective, okay?
Absolutely, I will.
You got
Great
it.
talking to you, Greg.
Buddy. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Mr. DD564. So, is Greg saying he was right on this whole time? Well, first of all, what did I say, DD564? What did we say? It's right on my YouTube channel. On my episode on the live show yesterday, what did we say? What did we say on January 31st? We said that if that UCLA job comes open, that PJ Fleck, I thought most likely what we've heard, that he was going to be mentioned to be a candidate. That he was going to be named as a candidate because he was interested in before at UCLA. UCLA was interested in PJ Fleck. And what happened? He was named as a candidate by Brett McMurphy, by Bruce Feldman, by ESPN today. We didn't say PJ Fleck was going to become the head coach of UCLA. Never reported that. We said we believed he was going to be named as a candidate. We said that days ago. We said that 3 weeks ago because we had some information. Never said he was going to be named. Never said that once. Anyways, that people kind of put their own technicality. Okay, whatever. It's just, yikes. Yeah, Tar Heel. Tar Heel is one of the very few people that I had to dismiss from the chat. Probably there's about 3 people in the history, and Tar Heel was one of them. It was some comments he made on an episode, not live, but after the show was over. I read those comments, ladies and gentlemen. I read them, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot, consistent, lots of comments. Or if you do some hate speech for me to make you disappear, but yeah. So just let you know on that. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more. Not seeing any more reports on UCLA. Let me just check out here something.
from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. The floor is yours, good sir.
Are you feeling better now, sir?
Yes, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, but we had a situation today, but I can't really get into it. But there was some some disinformation that was out there, which is natural, but there was some really good, accurate information that should have been out there, and it was out there, which would have hurt us later on. But the story stopped when Fleck came out tonight and said, "Nah, we're good." So I feel good about Fleck being the Gophers head coach. Don't feel good about how some people were doing some reporting on it, but that is just something I'm going to have to put in the back of my mind and make sure I do not deal with those people again. JD, though, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
I was just calling in to say congratulations and also let you know yesterday whenever I was talking, I was joking around, but then I have to remember how I felt when the Mike Norvell rumors were going around, so I was calling to kind of apologize. I know you took it as joking around, but even then, sometimes our anxiety.
Do you know what I was doing? When the story broke that PJ Fleck, when he put his tweet out? I kid you not, I'm not lying to you. I was having a conversation with a Ohio State beat writer about Coy Perich possibly going to the Buckeyes if Fleck took the UCLA job. I was having that conversation in the studio, on the phone, when that PJ Fleck, when I saw the tweet, and I said, PJ Fleck said in Minnesota, bye! And I hung up the phone on the Buckeye. So that's natural to talk about that.
Sure.
That's football. That you're just being a football fan. You're being a Seminole.
Oh yeah.
I'm not. That didn't bother me a bit. If we could ever poach from you guys, I'd be in JD's face all the time. But that's not going to happen, unfortunately. But go ahead, the floor is yours.
No, sir. That's primarily what I was calling about. Like I said, on the Seminole side, we're just waiting on lawyers and courts and judges and those kinds of things, and just the drama seems like it's going to get extended till at least March and probably later. But you do have the ACC meetings next week, and I'm just curious. I mean, does FSU not go? I mean, can statements that do the lawyers go instead for them? I mean, you would think they'd have to have some type of representation going in case some type of a vote comes up. But at the same time, do you have your lawyer in your hip pocket with you? I'm a little fascinated by that concept, but besides that, the rest of it's just, waiting for the next quote unquote bombshell,
Yeah. You know what? I know. Now, this is me being stupid, right? Because I am stupid. But this is me. No, I like that the date March 22nd is out there. Even though everyone's saying it's going to be dismissed, they're not going to dismiss the case, and maybe they're not going to stay the court. They're not going to give what Florida State wants in the Mecklenburg court under Judge Cooper. I still like that there's a date there, because that's sort of like the bumper. So, in other words, like you said yesterday, maybe the ACC comes back with the filing to the Leon County case, right? Saying we would like yours dismissed and all this stuff. But I like that March 22nd date. It gives it guardrail a little bit, right? Or am I wrong?
Sure. No. Well, it at least is starting to establish that things are moving forward. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think judges are human beings, and just listening to other people talk. And this isn't a direct quote or anything like that, but it's one of those that you wonder whether the judge, I think even Doug Rohan might have even suggested this, and I've heard a couple other people, or I've read a couple other people suggest that the judge might just choose to kick the can down the road, because maybe he does see where the case in North Carolina should be dismissed, but he's got to live there. If that's a detrimental action towards the ACC, maybe he just his excuse is to put forth a stay in the case while it moves forward in Florida. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems pretty open and shut. Now, you'd say I'm biased because I'm an FSU fan. Well, I'm pretty practical, and I'm not seeing the ACC refute many of these charges. All they want to do is keep the contract hidden so far. And, the fact that FSU is putting these in the filings, I would assume they would have to prove some of these things, or they would have at least ample evidence to be able to prove some of them. But, they're also in a little bit of a fishing expedition too, as far as discovery. I mean, that's known. So, like you and I have talked about before, I think something's going to stick, but it's just the ACC is going to drag this out as long as they can, because that's all they. I mean, in my opinion, that's all they have. I saw where somebody had referenced Bob Thompson. His tweet that he deleted, talking about this was the tweet from months ago that was about time somebody challenged, and I'm paraphrasing, the ACC grantor rights because there were enough holes in it to drive a truck through. And I think he has since deleted that tweet, but people, snapshotted it and so on. So you feel good about it. You just wish we could get it over and done with.
Yeah.
And then you and I can have a toxic fan relationship. I can make fun of the Gophers. You can make fun of us so we don't have a hockey team, or all we have is a club hockey team. We can make fun of those things, because I'm ready to get this moving forward. I'm so ready to be out of the ACC.
Like I told Vince Knoll, he has that great show, Garnet and Old.
Yes, sir.
I told him I think I was on Immaculate's Big 12 Mafia show with Nathan Brown and those guys, and I told Vince, I said, look, I can't wait for you guys, for the Florida State Seminoles to come up to Minneapolis, Huntington Bank Stadium in November and be 24.5-point favorites, but only beat us Gophers by 21. I can't wait for it. And he gave me a little evil eye there. No, he didn't. I'm just kidding.
I can't wait for the Golden Gophers to come to Tallahassee in early September, because you will probably die of a heart attack.
Probably. I don't think the fat guy from Minnesota should be able to go. I live in the Panhandle again. I mean, I've lived in the South most of my life, but it is still. It's hard. It really is hard. At least this time of year we get good weather, and it's not like South Florida where it's the same season the whole year. But it is a true tropical environment here in the summertime, and if you're not used to this kind of humidity, ooh, Lord have mercy. God bless you. Because you stay indoors, But I would not survive.
Anyway, all right, sir. Well,
all
like
right,
I said, congratulations. I'm glad you kept your coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks.
first of all, I'm seeing comments in the section in the chat room that Becky Go Huskies is going to have a new show. She's going to have her own YouTube show, college football show.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Is that what's going on? But before I get to Becky Go Huskies, and if that is true, I'm incredibly excited for Becky Go Huskies. Incredibly excited. I don't know anything about it. I'm trying to pick it up in the chat here. But let me get to let me get to hold on everybody. Hold on. Let me get to DD564. I saw that you put about 4 or 5 comments down. And again, spam on the board. I had to let you go, sir. The 247 editor said a country name. I'm so mad. You said about 4 or 5 comments. Let me try to explain it so even you can understand. It wasn't about saying a country name. I mean, it wasn't about saying a country. Especially the country of Mexico, where my wife is from, was born, who lived for many, many, many years. Until she was about, I better not give that away. In her 20s. It's that should not have been publicized. Should not have been out there because we were working on a story. DD564, you completely do not understand how this works behind the curtain. It was not simply about, they put out a country's name. I explained it at the start of the show. It was a vital piece of information that couldn't be put out there because we didn't want sources shouldn't be burned, number one. Number two, it's a way for us to be able to sift through other information that's coming in. If the word Mexico was attached, we could perceive with it and go with it. And there are other reasons for that. And I'm sorry if you do not have the capability to understand what I was saying at the beginning of the show. So, but that is not why you are off the show hidden. It's your 5 or 6 comments right in a row mocking my a comment about. You can disagree with me, but you don't mock me, and especially when you do not have the slightest clue what you're talking about. So as my wife would say, adios, amigo, you're gone. Okay, now, what is going on with Becky Go Huskies? Becky Go Huskies, I'm going to open up the phone lines again. Give me a call. Let me know what you're doing with the new show. I don't know if it's college football YouTube. I might have, maybe it's about, I don't know what it's about. But whatever it's about, Becky Go Huskies, give us a call. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Let me know. Unless you don't want me to know. That could be 2. That could be 2. No, I'm not thin-skinned, but we won't tolerate spamming. Not tolerate spamming in the chat room.
Call from
Becky Go Huskies.
Becky Go Huskies. What is going on? The floor is yours. Holy smokes.
Well, you got to be celebrating tonight, Greg. You get to keep your coach for at least another cycle.
Yes. Well, another year. I mean, this college football, it's year by year, It's month by month, for God's sake. Yes. Yes, I'm excited, Becky. I'm excited. But right now, I'm more excited about what you doing. What's going on? What is this? I've missed it.
Oh, yeah. So on Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Sergeant Pickles and I will be doing a show called Big Ten West Mafia.
Holy
So
smokes!
Yeah, we're
Oh
going to
my
talk
God!
about the 4 teams out here on the left coast.
Oh my goodness!
course,
What is this
national
called?
stuff.
Hold on a second. What is this called?
Big Ten West Mafia.
Big Ten West Mafia.
Yeah.
And this is
Good
Sergeant Pickles. And
Sergeant
Becky.
Pickles, yeah. Yeah.
Holy moly. Now is it out there? Is it where we can subscribe right now or?
No, not yet. Sergeant Pickles is kind of handling that. I think we're going to be using some of Bomber's stuff for a hot minute.
Got it.
So we kind of get
Yep.
everything up and running.
Yeah. Great. Now, Jay Pumatter says, "Hi, hey, Greg. I remember when Becky was your very first caller when you started the call-in feature. Yes, she was. Becky, thank you so much for all the support you've given the show. Holy smokes. This is very exciting. Big
Right? Yeah.
Ten West Mafia. Man, oh, man.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, if the Big Ten West were to exist now, it would be really, really West.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. So you're going to be focusing on 4 schools. Of course, you're going to be talking Big Ten, the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be talking Gophers. Come on.
Oh, yeah, no, of course.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
we're going to do some, like, history about the 4 schools, do some things, like, obviously we have a little, there might be a little juggernaut forming down in Eugene. Yeah. But we'll talk about that, like we'll talk about all 4 schools, like UCLA and obviously whatever this coaching search is.
Beautiful.
And all that. And like, obviously the blue blood out here on the West Coast, USC, we'll talk about them, and we're going to try and bring on like actual perspectives from the other 3 schools, because both Pickles and I are UW fans.
Yeah.
So we would like to just bring on, like, we'll have an Oregon fan on. We'll work to get a UCLA and a USC fan to come on board and kind of talk with us and, like, really kind of get things going. And then, of course, there'll be some guest appearances from some of our favorite Big 12 Mafia folks, like, maybe Immaculate and Moen and Wild Ute.
Yeah.
And, of course, Bomber himself. So.
Beautiful. You got to have me on once in a while.
Oh, we'll bring you on, Greg. We're going to bring you on,
yeah.
especially as we really get deep into looking at schedules, because Minnesota's popping up on some schedules.
Yeah, we don't play Washington and Oregon, though, but we do play USC at home and UCLA on the road. So
Which
hopefully...
I don't know if you looked at UCLA's schedule. They don't have a coach. But look, if you see, like, I'll tell you what, PJ Fleck looked at that schedule and was like, nope.
Yeah.
Have you seen their schedule?
Yeah,
Like,
it's going to be rough. Yeah.
No, there's a 3-game stretch at LSU, Baton Rouge. They're going down to Baton Rouge. That'll be a night game.
Yeah. That's...
On-conference night game in Baton Rouge. They don't lose.
Yeah.
Then you have the next week is home with Oregon. So, Happy Valley.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. I mean, it's going to be a rough couple years, but I think the most important thing for the UCLA head coach is to excite the donors, to get them back on board. That's the number one job.
Yeah. I think like whatever Jim Mora did a day ago, because when Jim Mora was there, he got their facilities really up and running, and UCLA's facilities are so great that professional athletes train at them in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's, obviously we'll go into it a little bit more on Monday, but I just want, from like your perspective, that it feels like that we don't know is going on in the halls at Westwood. That, I mean, Chip Kelly took a job at he cost himself $4 million in pay and took a demotion to leave. Like, nobody does that, right? Like, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, if I made $100,000, you know, I make $100,000 a year, I'm not taking a $14,000 pay cut to go to another company to, like, you know, take a lesser job. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, you know, unless the current position is just so toxic. So,
Yeah.
like, it just feels weird, right? Like, you're looking at it like, have you ever seen in the history of the Big Ten? I can't recall anything in the Pac-12 ever happening like this, but in the history of the Big Ten, you ever seen a head coach just leave to be a coordinator within the conference?
I cannot remember that. No.
Like, this has to be a first, right?
Yeah.
And I was listening to a space, and they were saying, like, Jed Fish is interviewed. And I'm like, I don't know, Jed Fish interviewed. Like, everybody's saying, like, everybody's trying to, like, figure it out. But if I'm them, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, Greg, like, if I'm UCLA, I go after a G5 coach, one of the top guys. Who's it? The guy at UNLV would be my, like, that's the one I would go after.
Yeah, I haven't heard his name being thrown around at all. Barry Odom.
No.
So,
like, did anybody know what he did at UNLV? Like, that team, I thought
great.
they would be, like, they're horrible, and they won, like, 10 games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just more like job's intriguing because it, like you said, if the donors are on board, there is nothing stopping them from being like USC. Nothing. If their donors are on board.
Yeah.
But they're never on board. I don't.
Yeah.
And I thought Chip Kelly was a home run hire. I did. I don't know if anybody else in the chat thinks that, but I thought at the time, oh, this is a home run hire. They're going to be really good. He's gonna really, you know, bring them back, and then nothing. It's like 25 years, 26 years since they won a conference title, played in the Rose Bowl. Like, nothing. It's just so odd to me that UCLA can't get on board. And now, if you look at their schedule next year, if I was PJ Fleck, I'm like, no. I don't know. They play at Hawaii and then everything else. Like, they closed the season with Washington, USC, and Fresno State. Like, it is such a long year. I would have said no to that too, but
yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be. I love Tony White. So I'm very, very, very. I'm in Tony White's corner on this. But again, I haven't really heard his name being. I mean, I did early on, but not today. So.
Yeah, I think the fans are throwing his name around more so than, like, the administration, which is weird. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's the associate head coach at Nebraska, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He's a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, he's like next in line. You know, he's like the assistant head coach or what, associate head coach, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, why wouldn't you go give him like that? Like, Nebraska's defense wasn't their problem.
No. I don't
know.
He came from Syracuse. He did a great job at Syracuse. He's a former Bruin. He was a great football player. He's got it all going. So, but I have not heard his name today. So that kind of gets me kind of,
I mean, like, they hire another head coach. I said this last night on Mafia Show, like Bomber Show. I said it last night. I said, if they hire another head coach, the chain reaction of this, it is February. Spring ball starts for some teams in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The chain reaction of like guys transferring and the 30-day windows could be long. Like there's a chance like the spring game for some team may just feature like whatever, maybe like 40 guys. And then they have to like pull in whatever they can from the spring transfer window. It's just like San Jose State was able to kind of stop the bleeding by hiring the former Navy head coach because he wasn't coaching anywhere else. But if they hire another head coach, like you could see multiple teams down the line, like just imploding. Kind of like we just saw it with Washington and Alabama. Had Michigan not hired more, I think we would have seen it with Michigan. So it's like, it just gets like, it's kind of scary at this point, and I feel really bad for any team. Like, I feel bad for UCLA because, you know, those kids are now in a spot where, like, they've started classes, they're doing things at UCLA, and now they have to try to, like, transfer, sign whatever, and they could be potentially moving from Los Angeles to, like, Miami or Los Angeles to, like, Columbus, you know, like, cross-country kind of stuff. I feel really bad, but it all sucks. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, Becky, I appreciate the call. Congratulations on your show for Monday.
And congrats to you on Fleck staying, and
yes.
Hopefully he continues to build what Minnesota is. I've told you this. My grandfather was a Minnesota alum, rooted for him, all that. So they have kind of a special place in my heart. So I want them.
Yeah,
to
I appreciate it.
Succeed,
I appreciate you letting me know that too. It's a tough job.
Right.
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it, Becky. Somebody's got to be the head coach in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they're not going to hire me, so that's the way it is.
I mean, would you want the job?
No, I can barely handle this job. Okay, I can barely do this job. Thank you,
I was
Becky.
like, somebody mentioned Pete. By the way, somebody mentioned Pete Carroll, and I was like, he's 72. You think he's gonna go back to college?
Yeah.
Anyway, night, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Congrats. That is exciting news. That makes me feel a little proud that Becky and Sergeant Pickles. I like him too. I watched him. EMAC. He's a good dude. So Sergeant Pickles and Becky. Some Washington flavor. Big Ten West Mafia. Washington flavor. The Huskies. Holy smokes. I was asked a question here. Am I thin skin? No, I'm not. I take so much, and I'm not thin skin. And yes, I can be mocked and joked around. The gentleman that I let go here, TD564, he put out 9 comments in 3 minutes. 9 comments in 3 minutes. 736, 737, 737, 738, 738, 738, 739, 739. And they were all about the same thing, just worded a little bit differently, saying, Greg, Mexico, you can't talk Mexico. He was mocked. He knew what I meant. He knew what I said at the beginning of the show. Don't know what happened to that guy, but you cannot put 9 messages in 3 minutes, spamming the board. So yes. It's one of those things. I don't like to do it, but if you're just coming in just to cause a mess in the chat room, you are gone. That's just the way it is. And with hate speech, you are gone. Now, he didn't do hate speech, but he was just 9 messages in 3 minutes about the same thing where he got banned. Okay. Has a cool backdrop of Seattle jerseys. No problem, Joe. Yeah. You can make fun of me. You can make fun of me. Just 9 comments in 3 minutes about something that it was not about Mexico. I love Mexico. I love Mexico. My wife's from Mexico. So maybe I was a little bit pissed off at that as well. But anyways, and I am upset about what happened because I was working a story, man, and I can't tell you it all, but I'm just letting you guys know I work hard on these stories, and if I give you some... Anyways, all right. So I think we're going to close down the show. We've been on for a little bit. And basically it was a celebration of PJ Fleck staying in Minnesota and a celebration for UCLA because they're going to get their new head coach here pretty soon, right? They're going to get their head coach pretty soon. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. It's been, thank you for joining us. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please do so. Make sure you get yourself notified. And before you leave, please smash the like button. Thank you for the donations, for the comments and the phone calls. Saturday night is all right for PATC, especially when PJ Fleck is staying at Minnesota. And that song that we did, the Beatles, the song I did for the Beatles yesterday, we're going to burn that tape right now. So until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please y'all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.